Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming out tonight. My name is Vish Burra, and I'm the Vice President of the New York Young Republican Club. I'm not a keynote, please. I just want to say one thing. I'd like to give a shout out to Linda Suet. She became a U.S. citizen today just to vote for Trump. USA! Thank you, Linda, for joining us. Yes, anytime. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, now I want to thank you again for all coming out. We are here now for our second award presentation and speaker of the night. Our club is lucky to boast members, past and present, who have made their mark on American history and international history. One such figure is the great John Foster Dulles. Hailing from a family of statesmen, Dulles joined the law firm of Sullivan and Cromwell, which at the time was the most powerful law firm on Wall Street, eventually specializing in international law and becoming a senior partner. During the 1930s, after serving in the Army Intelligence Services, Dulles became a member of this very club. Dulles was a strong critic of President Harry Truman's policy of containing atheistic communism and believed instead that the U.S. should be actively combating communism by promoting liberation and atomic retaliation instead of appeasement. Dulles would get a chance to implement these ideas when he was appointed as Secretary of State in 1953 by Dwight Eisenhower. During his time in office, Dulles was the most traveled Secretary of State and became closely associated with an airplane, as the D.C. Virginia International Airport namesake would indicate. He logged 479,286 miles on his trips outside of the United States. That's a lot of frequent flyer miles. Now, although he was a strong proponent of international cooperation, Dulles became disillusioned with the Soviet Union, experiencing their intransigence during international meetings. Today, he may be known as a figure more complex than previously thought. He actually considered the possibility of genuine negotiations with the Soviets, recognized the process of change in the post-Stalinist Russia, and did not always regard neutrality as immoral, and above all, was prudent and cautious on atomic issues. Dulles wrote in Life magazine once, "The ability to get to the verge without getting into war is the necessary art." He may have come to understand that defending our liberty here at home also meant ensuring our neighbors share our values to promote international harmony. At the end of the day, all nations seek to preserve their people. A figure more complex than previously thought. A legacy that can easily be attributed to the recipient of tonight's John Foster Dulles Award in recognition of his commitment to the defense of American liberty. Born in Michigan, a graduate of Hillsdale College, worked in the White House for George H.W. Bush, worked at Capitol Hill for Dana Rohrabacher, proudly serving as a Navy SEAL. I just got started on his resume. He would eventually go on to be famous, or even infamous, for being the founder of Blackwater USA, a military services. Yeah, we can clap. A military services contractor that would successfully go on to be awarded billions in government contracts. The concept may be controversial, but not enough credit goes to the innovation that lives at the confluence of the cultivation of human capital and the liberation of humans worldwide, all without the heavy, slow, and rather incompetent hand of government. After an unfortunate series of events that were widely publicized, our award winner would go on to sell Blackwater and eventually go on to pursuing his international entrepreneurial ambitions and also establishing his legacy of resilience, doing business as far and wide as the United Arab Emirates, Africa, and China. He is now the head of Frontier Resources Group and chairman of the Frontier Services Group. He would recently make waves for proposing we privatize the war in Afghanistan, which would save thousands of American soldiers' lives and billions of American taxpayer dollars. Think of the idea what you would like, but innovation on this geopolitical level, on this scale, is something I would not doubt would bring a tear of joy to Dulles' eye today. I would contend both men understand that the cultivation and preservation of the American people is paramount in the pursuit of happiness and freedom. And how we cultivate freedom here at home will have major implications of how we advocate for freedom abroad. Tonight, we are lucky to have a scion of Dulles' legacy here at the club and are proud to award him the John Foster Dulles Award, Mr. Erik Prince. Got a picture there?
What great irony that I receive an award named after a Secretary of State. The minions at Foggy Bottom must cringe at that notion. So when they asked me to come and talk tonight, they said, please come and talk about current and future threats to the Republic. As you know, we have a lot of endless wars going on. The president was right to campaign and try to take action against that. For 18 years, trillions of dollars now spent, thousands of American lives, tens of thousands of Americans wounded, and not a lot to show for it, except you have to take your shoes off to get on an airplane. When, in the first 6 months after 9/11, fighting an unconventional war, we won. We crushed the hell out of the Taliban. But then, when the very big conventional military rolls in and basically replicates the Soviet battle plan for the last 17 and a half years, we've been losing. And so again, the president was right to campaign against that. But his clique of Beltway advisors, even though the staff he's surrounded with either say more money and more troops, whether it's Secretary Mattis or the current set of leadership, they want more money, more troops, or nothing. And so the president really gets boxed in, which is why he's not been able to end these endless wars. But I would contend the greatest threat to American liberty is not Islamic terrorism. It's not Russia. Russia is basically Italy with nuclear weapons. They have greater ambitions, yes, but they are very constrained by people and reach. China, 19 out of the last 20 centuries, China was the largest GDP in the world, definitely growing again, getting over some of the great errors they made, in the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution. But I will always come down on the side of freedom, as long as we don't forget what actually made America great. What is the most successful political party in the last 100 years? I'm afraid not. I will read to you a quote from the 1926 Socialist Workers' Party candidate. He said, "The American people will never knowingly adopt socialism, but under the name of liberalism, they will adopt every fragment of the socialist program until one day America will be a socialist nation without knowing how it happened." At the same time, you had this burst of progressivism back 100 years ago when they passed 3 horrid amendments to the Constitution. The 16th Amendment opened the floodgates of the tax revenue, of the income tax. The 17th Amendment changed how they elected senators. The Founding Fathers had it right when they said that senators should be elected by the states' rights to protect the interests of the states, and especially protect the 10th Amendment. But instead, those progressives blew that away, and now the egos and the special interests of those senators keep spending and spending and spending. And of course, the 18th Amendment, which had to be repealed, the prohibition, and it goes on and on and on. This creeping government control. Why is the presidential election so contested? Because the federal government is way too powerful. It is way too massive. It is far beyond the balance of local, state, and federal power. I believe we have a constitutional crisis because we're supposed to have 3 branches, executive, legislative, and judicial, but we have 4 now. We have a permanent administrative state, which is unelected, unaccountable, and truly out of control. The progressives are basically anti-democratic. They wanted to install a government that was election-free, and they've accomplished that. If you think about how they legislate, you've got a lazy Congress that passes a law with all kinds of vagary and leaves it to one of these alphabet federal agencies to interpret the rules to make their own rules. They then enforce it with their own court system through magistrates and tribunals outside of the federal court system, and they enforce it with tens of thousands of their own armed officers. Organizations like the FDA, the FCC, the EPA, the IRS, the Army Corps of Engineers, and on and on and on. It's out of control, folks, and believe me, I've experienced it. I started Blackwater. I never intended to be a government contractor. I started as a training facility because the SEAL teams have been using those kind of facilities since the 1970s. And we said yes when the government needed us, and we grew and we grew and we grew through competitively bid contracts, kind of the American way of doing things. In the Vietnam War, the anti-war left went after the troops, and this time they went after the contractors, and we represented everything they loved to hate. And after one unfortunate event in Nisera Square, the political attack came, a blizzard of subpoenas, literally a blizzard of subpoenas, from every federal agency you might not have even heard of, all coming after us. When an IRS agent, a 25-year career guy, says to my accountant, "Man, I've handled a lot of high-profile cases, but I've never been under so much pressure to get someone as to get Erik Prince. It doesn't feel like America anymore." When the DOJ indicts all the executives of your company saying, "We're not really interested in you, but just give us something on Erik Prince." The political attack, the weaponization of the bureaucracy doesn't feel much like America anymore. When the staffers say, "We don't care what you do, but we're going to ride you guys until you break," that's not really what the founders intended. President Trump just installed his 150th federal judge with the goal of limiting and curtailing the administrative state back to its proper role. And that's ultimately what this coup attempt is about. If you want to see a coup attempt in action, tune in on Wednesday when you'll see mid-level bureaucrats opining on why they think the president shouldn't be president, not based on fact, but on their opinion. The president threatens this permanent hold on the country of this bureaucracy that is accountable to no one. And why must we fight this coup? Because elections must have consequences. Look, I spent my 7th birthday in 1976 in East Berlin. And even as a 7-year-old, seeing the guns, the dogs, the minefields, all facing in, all literally keeping a nation's state held hostage, keeping them from that socialist workers' paradise. Progressivism leads to socialism, leads to tyranny. Ask the people of Venezuela how that's working out for them. Ask the Chinese, where they lost 50 million people to the Great Leap Forward, or the Cultural Revolution, the ultimate political correctness gone awry, enforced by red brigades. That is where that paradigm takes us all. How do we fight this? Look, the 5 counties surrounding Washington, D.C. are the wealthiest in the country. That's a horrid fact. Okay? Those counties suck off the wealth of the rest of the nation. Let's move the federal agencies out to normal America. Department of Agriculture should be out in Iowa. They need to interact with normal people that work hard and pay taxes and don't depend on the government for their income. You need to privatize wherever possible. Okay? Entrepreneurship made America great. Government did not make America great. Civil service. Okay? It's time to abolish those protections and make every government employee truly accountable to their employers, because they are not. We need to support the president. This is a very, very critical time. And as Veterans Day rolls around on Monday, whether you served in uniform or not, right, I want you to think about if you've seen the movie Saving Private Ryan, and that last scene when Tom Hanks, the hero of the movie, who led his unit, seized a crucial bridge, holding off an enemy attack, and as he lays dying, he says to Private Ryan, "Earn this. Earn what these men did for you." So whether you served in uniform or not, okay, liberty is not free. The price of liberty is internal vigilance. And whether it's in Virginia, where only 20% of the population turned out to vote and the state went blue, okay, the last time the state was that blue was slavery and Jefferson Davis, okay? It is time. We got to wake up. We can't depend on Trump's coattails. The man needs help. Keep fighting. Stay hard. Thank you.